Commander Lysith Vex of the Galactic Confederation stood motionless before the sealed containment chamber. The atmosphere inside the observation deck was tense, the air practically crackling with apprehension. Behind her, 5 of the Confederation's most esteemed weapons analysts, representing species from across 5 different galaxies, waited with various expressions of curiosity and dread. "Proceed with extreme caution," Vex instructed, her 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession. "This is the first intact specimen we've recovered." Chief Analyst Dorovan Pell nodded, his crystalline appendages glinting under the clinical lights. "According to intelligence, this is what the humans call an ordinary firearm. Nothing special by their standards." The containment chamber hissed open, revealing a sleek black object that appeared deceptively simple. It was small enough to fit in a human hand, a primitive kinetic weapon that seemed almost laughable compared to the elegant energy weapons the Confederation wielded. "Run preliminary scans," Vex ordered. Pell activated the scanning array, and 3-dimensional renderings of the weapon appeared on the hovering displays. The assembly was remarkably straightforward: a trigger mechanism, barrel, firing pin, and ammunition chamber. "Primitive design," remarked Analyst Tholos, their bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with dismissive colors. "It merely accelerates a small metal projectile through chemical combustion." "Yet these primitive devices have claimed countless lives in their history," Vex countered. "I want to understand why they haven't abandoned them despite having developed more advanced technologies." Analyst Merax, whose species had evolved from prey animals, approached the chamber cautiously. "There's something unsettling about it. It's designed for a single purpose. Death," said Pell quietly. "That's its only function." "Many species develop weapons," countered Analyst Erhan, whose race had evolved in the harsh deserts of Proxima Centauri 4. "What makes humans different?" Vex activated the historical data module. Images flickered across the display. Human conflicts spanning centuries. The weapons evolved, but their fundamental nature remained the same. What disturbed the observers wasn't the technology itself, but the apparent ease with which humans employed it. "Most sentient species develop past their violent tendencies as they advance," Vex explained. "Humans preserve theirs, refine them." Analyst Nishral, the youngest among them, reached toward the containment field. "I don't understand. The psychological impact of taking a life is universal across sentient species. How do they overcome this fundamental aversion?" "That," said Vex grimly, "is precisely what we're here to understand." She retrieved a small data cube and inserted it into the terminal. A holographic projection materialized, a human training facility where dozens of individuals practiced with similar weapons. "This is not military personnel," Vex explained. "These are civilians, regular humans who practice weapon handling as recreation." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. In most Confederation societies, weapons were tools of necessity, wielded reluctantly by designated defenders. The concept of weapons as entertainment was wholly alien. "There's more," Vex continued, her voice dropping. "Preliminary scans detected something our instruments couldn't identify. Something integrated with the weapon at a molecular level." Pell adjusted the scanning parameters. "I don't see anything unusual in the composition." "Because you're looking for technology," Vex replied. "Look deeper." As the scans penetrated to the subatomic level, the analysts watched in growing horror as patterns emerged. Patterns that shouldn't exist in an inanimate object. "Impossible," whispered Merax. "What are we seeing?" demanded Erhan. Vex's expression darkened. Evidence that humans have weaponized something far more dangerous than metal and chemicals. Something we've never encountered before. The observation deck fell silent as the holographic display revealed what the scans had detected. Tiny patterns, imperceptible to conventional analysis, woven into the very structure of the weapon. "Emotional imprints," said Vex, her voice barely above a whisper. The weapon carries psychic residue from every human who has handled it. Nishril recoiled. That's not possible. Objects don't retain emotions. Most objects don't, corrected Pell, his crystalline appendages trembling slightly. But humans possess a unique neurological trait we've observed in no other species. Their brain patterns can imprint on physical matter through repeated interaction. Tholos's tendrils flashed alarmed patterns. You're suggesting these weapons carry memories? Not just memories, Vex clarified. Intent. Purpose. The accumulated psychological weight of every time this weapon was fired. Every emotion experienced by its wielder. The implications were staggering. Unlike Confederation weapons, which were tools designed to minimize psychological trauma to their users, human weapons seemed designed to amplify it, to forge a connection between weapon and wielder. Pull up the psychological profile of the human from whom we confiscated this, Vex ordered. The display shifted to show a human male named Riker Tannhauser, a civilian collector with no military background. His psychological evaluation showed typical human parameters: moderate aggression responses, normal empathy levels, standard fight-or-flight reflexes. He's completely unremarkable, noted Erhan. Yet he possessed 5 similar weapons, all with these imprints. That's what makes humans so dangerous, Vex said. Their relationship with violence isn't exceptional, it's integrated. They don't weaponize because they're inherently violent. They weaponize because they've evolved to form attachments to tools. Merax approached the containment field again, studying the weapon with new understanding. It's a symbiotic relationship. The weapon becomes an extension of themselves. And that's why our attempts at pacification have failed, Vex concluded. We've been trying to separate humans from their weapons as if they were merely objects. But to humans, these aren't just tools. They're cultural artifacts, personal extensions, even family heirlooms. Nishril's eyes widened. They pass weapons between generations? With pride, confirmed Vex. And each transfer adds another layer of emotional imprinting. Pell ran additional scans, revealing deeper patterns. The imprints are strongest around the trigger mechanism, the point of decision. Decision is the key word, said Vex. Throughout their history, humans have maintained one consistent principle: choice. They choose violence, consciously and deliberately. That makes them different from instinctive predators or defensive creatures. The room fell silent as the full horror of the realization dawned on them. Humans weren't dangerous because they had weapons. They were dangerous because they understood weapons on a fundamental level no other species did. The Confederation has been approaching this wrong, Vex said finally. We can't disarm humans by taking their weapons. The weapons are merely extensions of their will. And their will is indomitable, finished Pell gravely. The alarms suddenly blared. Red emergency lights bathed the observation deck. Security breach in detention level 3, announced the automated system. Human prisoner escape in progress. Vex's 4 eyes widened in shock. Tannhauser. Impossible, protested Erhan. He was in maximum security containment. The surveillance feed showed Tannhauser moving through the corridors with uncanny precision, disabling security systems with improvised tools. He's not even armed, whispered Nishril in disbelief. That's what we failed to understand, said Vex, watching as the human systematically worked his way toward the observation deck, toward his confiscated weapon. Humans don't need weapons to be dangerous. The weapon is just a focus for what already exists within them. The door to the observation deck sealed automatically as lockdown protocols engaged. But as they watched the surveillance feed, they saw Tannhauser pause before a panel, study it briefly, and then bypass the security system with a series of precise movements. He's coming here, realized Merax. He knows we have it. Not just the weapon, said Vex, her voice steadying as she reached a decision. He's coming for understanding. The weapon is merely a symbol. When Tannhauser finally breached the observation deck, he found Commander Vex standing alone, the containment field deactivated, his weapon resting on the examination table. "We've been studying you as much as your weapon," Vex said calmly. "And we've reached a conclusion." Tannhauser remained silent, his eyes fixed on the gun. "The Confederation withdraws its pacification directive," Vex continued. "Your species will maintain sovereignty over its own development, including its relationship with weapons." Tannhauser finally spoke, his voice surprisingly gentle. "You're afraid of us." "Yes," admitted Vex, "but not for the reasons you think. We fear you because you understand something fundamental that we've forgotten. That true power isn't in the weapon, but in the choice to use it or not." Tannhauser picked up the weapon, checked it with practiced movements, then deliberately emptied it of ammunition before securing it in its holster. "That," he said, "is the terrifying truth about humans that your Confederation needs to understand. It was never about the guns." Vex watched as the human turned to leave. "What then?" Tannhauser paused at the door. "It's about the fact that we can build something designed only for destruction, and still choose when to keep it silent." As the human walked away, Vex transmitted her final report to Confederation Command. "Recommend immediate cessation of all attempts to disarm humanity. They do not need weapons to be dangerous, but they need the choice to prove they are worthy of peace."